Welcome to the Power of Love show, sponsored by the D.D. Jackson Foundation, where we shine a light on loss and grief and how it impacts our lives. We are here to provide hope, resources, and a community so no one feels alone in their grief. Enjoy the show. Welcome to the Power of Love show, sponsored by the D.D. Jackson Foundation. We are here to provide hope, resources, and a community so no one feels alone in their grief. We believe that through the power of love, that nothing is impossible with love on your side. I am TJ Jackson, and I am live right now on Facebook and YouTube talking to all of you out there. Thank you guys for joining. You may be listening to myself on a podcast. And if you are, please consider subscribing to our podcast. And if you are enjoying our podcasts, please consider leaving a review. It helps those who may not be finding us have a better chance of actually finding us. All right. So as you guys can see, it is just me, myself, and I today. I don't know why I blanked on that, but it's just me, myself, and I today. Taj is wrapped up in some other stuff. So it is just me coming to you today. Saying that, I have a special guest. But before I get to our guest, I want to tell you guys something that's very important. It is our disclaimer. I am not a licensed therapist. I am just an ordinary person who has experienced loss in my life. I've been impacted by it, and I have learned from it. And I enjoy sharing my opinions on that loss to each and every one of you out there to hopefully help you overcome, get through whatever it is you are going through. Saying that, if you need professional help, I urge you to seek it and to find it. Please do not just rely on myself or my guest. All right. So, you know what? Something we haven't done, and this is a great opportunity to do it, is to encourage anyone who's listening or watching to follow us on the social media platforms. On Twitter, it is at DDJ Foundation. On Instagram, it is DD Jackson Foundation, all spelled out. So that would be DEE Jackson Foundation. Okay, so those are the social medias. I've done all that. And you guys know I usually like to talk about with Taj current events, what's going on in the world. And I just still am tempted to do so, but there's been a lot of stuff going on, especially here in the States, that I don't want to fall down a rabbit hole and get into a political conversation. That is not what the show is about. We truly try to leave all politics out of this. Politics seems to just get people riled up, and we get to lose focus on, in my opinion, what's really important. And that's just the importance of being a great, solid human being and being there for each other. So I'm not going to even go down that road. I'm going to go straight into it because we have a fantastic guest who's going to be joining me. And why not? Let's get into it. So on today's episode of the Power of Love show, I will be welcoming author and founder of Grieving It, Shanice McLeish. Shanice L. McLeish is a writer of her own stature. She specializes in conversations, providing that children, too, have feelings. Shanice brings extensive experience and effective leadership in grieving. She first learned her lesson on grief at the tender age of 8 years old when her father suddenly passed away in a car accident. Ever since then, she has been a trailblazer in lending her voice to grieving children everywhere. Shanice has a Bachelor of Science degrees in sports management with concentrations both in youth creation and sport event management from Kennesaw State University, and a Master of Science degree in sports administration from Georgia State University. In her free time, Shanice likes to hike, cook, spend time with her loved ones, and volunteer alongside her other Kate's Club buddies. She lives in Atlanta, Georgia with her dog Rocky. Without much further ado, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the Power of Love show, Miss Shanice McLeish. Shanice!
Hello, TJ. How are you?
I am excellent. How are you doing?
I am doing so well. I'm so honored to be here with you guys. And hello, welcome everyone.
Shanice, I have some questions already written out. I have some questions that I know are going to come up. But one of my questions that I wasn't expecting is I'm curious to know how you got into sports management. And that is a degree in sports management. How does
It's
that
so
happen?
different.
Yeah,
So,
brothers, what is it?
truthfully,
Talk to
I
me.
grew up with a lot of older boy and female cousins, but surrounded, it's a lot of guys around me. So, growing up, I love basketball, I love football. I actually played basketball and soccer growing up, and then did a little bit of sports medicine throughout my entire year of high school and fell in love with sports. It was definitely
Wow.
different going into that, realm of getting a
Yeah.
degree and getting an education, but I would not change it for the world.
Yeah, that's so cool. I think that is so, so cool. So Shanice, what inspired you to go into the field of grief work and writing grief literature?
Yes, this is a great question, and this is one that I really choose and hold close to my heart. As you said earlier, I too experienced a profound death in my life. My dad,
Mm,
he passed away when I was 8 years old, and really the grief journey for me started then, unknowingly, but started.
mm,
With that, kids like me has inspired me to write the story. With, children that have experienced a loss in their life at a young age and didn't really have the outlet or anywhere to express their emotions. I wanted to share with them that they are not alone on their grief journey as well.
mm, mm. So, it's so hard for me because I want to ask certain questions, but at the same time, I want to be respectful. But do you have a lot of memories with your father prior to passing?
Please know, TJ, everything is welcomed. I am an open
Okay.
book.
Okay.
Yes, it's funny that you asked that because I have most of my memories are from when I was growing up as a child
Mm,
before the traumatic event happened. So I have plenty of memories to the point that I can tell my mom what was happening in this time, what day this was, what we were doing as a family. But if you ask me what I ate last week, if you ask me what I had for dinner last night, I would be like, TJ, I have no idea.
you're like me then. You're like me. How did you, Shanice? What would you say at for anyone who? And the reason why I wanted to ask is for
Hmm.
I lost my mother. I had just turned 16, which is a different age than you, and my
Right.
mother was my entire world. So
Oh,
losing her
yeah.
was incredibly difficult. My question to you is, what advice would you give someone who may have lost, um, who maybe has a family member that's in that 8, 9, 7, 8, 9 age range? What advice would you give them? What was the most important thing for you at that time?
I think, to be honest, it's really to be there for that child or be there for that person. And that means showing up physically, mentally, emotionally for a child in that state or a child grieving. And I think it's really important to recognize and I would say my advice is to not hold back from that conversation, not hold back from opening a level of playing field where I know that I can be safe talking. I can feel safe talking about my emotions and my feelings and how this death has affected me. I really think that's what children need. They need someone
Mm.
that's not afraid to shy away because it's a hard conversation.
Was there a specific experience that really helped you get through that difficult youth I'm assuming you had after the passing of your dad?
Um, Really having my family members close by and connected. One that I can think of, which actually took place years later from my father dying, but I'm grateful that it did take place. I started volunteering at a grief organization here in Atlanta, Georgia, and being able to see kids and work with kids and other adults that are really feeling the same feels and having the same experiences, but different in other ways. But being surrounded in a grief community or people that speak about how much grief sucks. And
Mm,
to be real, it sucks.
mm.
But to have that space and seeing people open about their loved ones, it really allowed me to take a step back and say, okay, I can heal from this. I can make one step towards a better direction.
Yeah, I think that advice is great. I think being having family around, and just being able to talk in a safe place is very important, or express how you feel is very important. But something like you just said, I'd add is us doing this, the Power of Love show and the whole D.D. Jackson Foundation, and surrounding ourselves in a way where we're giving back to people who may be going through difficulties has been incredibly
Absolutely.
healing for myself. And my brother and I talk about that all the time. So I love that advice of possibly going on the other side and helping others get through the same experience you may have just went through is very, very profound, and something I think oftentimes we forget about or don't assume would help, but it really does help.
I
Um,
completely agree, TJ. I
yeah.
feel in that motion, being there helped me understand my grief and
Mm.
helped me move forward in my grief journey. And if it wasn't for me serving other people in this way, I don't believe that I would be as far as I am today. And I'm not
Yeah.
even far.
No, well, you are far. So I have a special book here
Yeah.
that is written by the one and only. It's Grief on the Playground, written by Shanice McLeish, the one and only. And I, first of all, where can people get this book? And I'm going to probably ask you again. And I have a terrible sun in my light, so you guys can't see everything. But where can people get this book, Shanice?
Yes, so Grief on the Playground is actually available on all major online retailers. So it's available on Amazon, Target, Walmart, Barnes and Nobles. People can also purchase this book on my website, grievingit.com. And as a self-published author, I think that it's super important for me to remind our consumers to support their local bookstores, to call
Mm.
them, to send them an email and request this book, Grief on the Playground, and their hometown bookstores, because that's really where grief change. That's where change happens, is in your communities.
Shanice, what was the inspiration for the book?
Ooh, I love this question. Thank you so much for asking. So, the inspiration that I had to write Grief on the Playground was really inspired by just people really knowing that they are not alone and having to do that together. For as long as I can remember, I was looking for grief resources or educational tools that really talked about grief because I was working hand in hand with families and children in grief, that I was really frustrated and wanting to find something, especially something with diverse characters and diverse people in them, that could be used as a tool, that could be used just to really have people sit down and break down what grief is and how grief affects us.
Mm, mm. What did you always want to be a children's author? Or
Absolutely not.
okay, I'm curious to know what is it about the children specifically with grief that pulled you in?
Because that's my love language. I understand where they are in their lives, and that is where I have the most experience. But as for being a children's author, no. I never knew that this was going to be my path. I never knew that this is going to be something that I've done. I'm completely shocked, and I'm grateful for the opportunity because I think it's beautiful and it's well needed. But for as long as I can remember, TJ, I swear, I have been running away from books. For as a fun fact about me is that I struggle with reading, or
Mm,
specifically comprehension, since I was in grade school. And this is due to me being dyslexic, calculexic. I'm not even sure if calculexic is a word, but it's a real thing. And I shied away from liking books, reading out loud in class, all the above. So I thought it was important to really find a way to connect with kids. And
mm,
if not connects, have something that is visual for them, especially as in a book form with pictures, to really connect those two dots together. Like, kids are something that are, they are my passion. They are where I was when I was their age, but their grief really means something to me. So in order for me to connect those two, I wanted to do something together.
yeah, I love that, and I love Denise's comment here. She says, "Children's ability to understand grief varies on the child. That's why these
Mhm.
books are so important." And to piggyback off that, Denise, at first I love that comment, but to
Yeah.
piggyback on it, I think it just opens up an opportunity for a child to express themselves in a non-threatening or scary way when they can refer
Absolutely.
to a member of the book or a character in the book and ask
Mhm.
questions through them. I think it just gives you and your loved one an opportunity to really be able to open up. And I think that's the important thing. I think oftentimes when grief happens to some of us, we close down and we isolate. And books like Shanice's really do a great job of being able to help a kid express themselves. So with that said, Shanice, my next question to you is, who is the audience for this book? Who is your
I
audience?
would, everyone, point blank, period.
Yeah,
But more
yeah.
specifically, outside of children, I would say educators are like my top goal. Hospitals, grief foundations, hospice care organizations. I really think it's important that these organizations and companies have a book on hand that they can offer to their audience, to the
Mm,
people that they serve.
I love it. You're not going to get any disagreement here. And again, it's available on Amazon, Barnes& and Noble, Target, and directly at www.grievingit.com. So the next part of this, since it's hinted here, Grieving It, I want to know more about your company, Grieving It. Why was it important for you to launch this business?
Grieving it, oh my, it's literally my heartbeat. I feel like this really is an extension of my heart, and Grieving It is a company based in Atlanta, Georgia, whose mission is to normalize grief through a single conversation. Grieving It really creates a space for people to openly grieve someone that they love. It was, and it still is really important for me to create this and to start and to create this company, excuse me, because I was really tired of losing important people in my life, like one after the other, one after the other. And I knew that I wasn't alone in that journey, but as much as we feel alone, I wanted others to know that they are not alone.
Mm,
Um, so yeah, those are the really main two pieces in that question. I just wanted to make sure that I answered it. But yeah.
yeah. What sets your company apart from others?
I would say since there's so many different grief support platforms out there, and I think they're all great, the thing that sets Grieving It apart is it would have to be the movement that we're creating behind normalizing grief. We focus a lot on providing education tools to the community, like Grief on the Playground, in that nature as well.
And what do you want? What's the ultimate goal for Grieving It? What are you hoping to accomplish?
I hope to change the world.
I love it.
Facts.
Yeah.
That is my first plan. I really, really hope to change the world in some way, big or small. But I really hope that through all of my hard work and all of like the passion and dedication that I put to each project that we have, that a child and an adult knows that they're not alone in their grief journey. I think that is my overall goal, and one that I'm keeping close to my heart to make sure to do.
Shanice, so far, what has been the most challenging and most rewarding part of doing grief related
Oh,
work?
I love being reflective. Thank you for asking. Okay, I would say the most rewarding would have to be TJ having the ability to connect with the most amazing people in a different way.
Okay.
So I don't know how to explain it, but you guys are my people. Grief people are my people because it's like you don't have to say anything. You just know that, say, I know that I share a common loss with you or a loss in common with you, and we get it. Like we see each other, we understand each other a little bit more, and being a part of that grief community is really rewarding to me. To have support from people that I've never known a day in my life, for people to say to me, "Yes, I lost my dad too. Yes, it's trash, but yes, I'm not alone, and you're not alone too." That's the best.
Uh,
As uh-huh.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. No, keep going. I'm sorry.
Okay. I would say, ooh, a challenge for me
Yeah.
though, working in this grief world is, and this is just me being honest, it's really hard for me, and I'm learning day in and day out, but learning to balance the amount of self care and how mental
Yeah.
health is real because when we're on this side of the platform, we open ourselves to taking on other people's griefs on top
Yeah.
of our own.
Yeah.
And that's just the work, that's just what happens in the line of work. So I'm learning through a lot of self-love, through therapy, through all the good things, all the mental health good things, how to
Mm.
prioritize, to how to shut down, how to disengage, how to separate.
Yeah. I think
Mhm.
that's a real thing, Shanice, and even I go through it at some points.
Mhm.
You want to be there and help others, but at the same time, if you just take on everyone's sadness and troubles, it can affect you, and you just have to
Right.
find that balance of being able to, like you said, make sure you're self loving and keeping yourself as optimal as possible, not only for yourself but to help people the best you can. So, I think you're right on, and that's super important. Here's a
Thank
question
you.
I have about when you do exchanges with people, you end them with, "I look forward to grieving with you." What is that
Mhm.
about? I like that.
Doesn't it feel like you're getting a warm hug?
I do, and you
Yeah.
know what? I want to say what I like about it, but I wanted you to
Okay,
answer
okay, okay,
first.
okay. So it truly makes me feel like I am signing off with a warm embrace to someone. And I would love to for someone to say those words to me, especially when I know that I'm heavy on grief.
Mm,
And I'd like to be on the receiving side of that. So I look forward to grieving with you. It welcomes people to not only share their grief, and feel safe in sharing their grief with me, but also it tells them that I too am grieving, and in return they're not alone.
yeah.
Yeah.
uh, you know what I love about it, Shanice? It
Yeah.
it it normalizes and makes it real for people. I think sometimes a lot of people, if they haven't experienced a serious loss in their life, they don't know anything about it, and they don't think it's a. I don't want to say they don't consciously think it's a real thing, but it's something that they can't really connect with. And we're all bound to have significant loss in our life, and as soon as we can not think of it as an isolating, as a unique experience, I think the better off we'll be collectively healing and getting through them. So I just think when you do that, I look forward to grieving with you. It normalizes it, and it makes people understand that grieving's okay. It's part of it. It's part of life, and I think
Mhm.
that's so important to be for that to be more said and more common in our everyday world. Um,
Thank
what
you.
advice
Thank you.
what advice would you give to someone who's struggling with grief at this moment?
Ooh. Okay, and I'm saying this only because I'm in this space, so I feel
Hmm.
it too.
Cool.
My advice would be really not to shy away from those feelings. And I really want to remind that person that their feelings are valid and grief freaking sucks. We can all agree that grief sucks. But
Hmm.
more important, to be there for yourself in those moments. Identify what you need. It could be what you need physically, what you need emotionally or mentally, and really do those things. Do those things for yourself.
Mm. There's a couple of questions I want to highlight.
Okay.
Hope that's okay. Toria says, any advice on how to help kids open up and talk about their feelings? It's already challenging for adults, so how can we help them on that?
Toria, this is a very, very, very good question. Only because, yes, it is already challenging for adults to talk to kids. And I say that to myself, and I say while reading this, sometimes adults just don't know how to. So the advice that I would give is twofold. One, buy Grief on the Playground, the children
Mm.
book. It is really a hand-in-hand guide that really can show you what a conversation can look like between an adult and a child, as well as the same thing for people going through grief right now, not shying away from it, not shying away from the conversation. Yes, I love the page flips, I love the turns, but really not shying away from the conversation with the child. If I can give any advice, I would start by sharing with that child a loss that you maybe have had, somebody in your life that you've loved and that has died, and how that made you feel at whatever, if at whatever age you were when that person died, or how that makes you feel now. And some people may think they're too young to understand, but children, they can understand. If they don't understand death, they can understand what that is. They understand the feeling of missing someone. They understand what it's like when you feel sad. And when you break down those words to them and use it to meet them where they are at their level, the conversation can be open.
Mm. So here's the great answer, by the way,
Thank
Shanice. And
you.
here's one more question that I will also partake in answering. And if you want to chime in as well, Lena says, "What would you say to a young adult who lost their great uncle, but they weren't really close to them?" I'm wording this question differently because I'm asking for myself. Lena, I think regardless of how close you were with a family member or someone that has an impact on your life, if you're asking the question, I think there's some type of emotional connection. And if so, I think you should talk about it. And whether that's with a therapist or with a family member or even a pet, I just think getting your feelings out is super important. And I don't think it's the other thing I will say is don't judge yourself. I don't hope that's not happening on how close your relationship or how distant it was or any issues with the relationship. Don't worry about that. The key is that you are getting through your situation as best as you can and moving forward. Sometimes people wonder like, how am I doing, or what this person would expect from me. And the truth of the matter is my mother, my uncle, anyone who I've lost, they would, at this point, I can strongly say this, they would want me to be healthy, happy, and moving forward in life. And if we can remember that from our loved ones, that's what they really want. I think it can help you move forward as well.
I love that, TJ. I am taking that on in my life to be happy, healthy, and move forward in life. Thank you for sharing that. That is
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah. Okay. So there was one more comment I actually wanted to highlight
Okay.
that came from Caitlin. She says, "You can't pour from an empty cup. It's important to restore yourself. What do you do to restore yourself, Shanice?"
Oh my gosh, yoga, 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 food,
Yeah.
meditation, hang out with my friends, family, eat some more food that I can laugh and eat.
Love
Really,
it.
Caitlin, it's whatever I could do to refuel. My favorite things are really hanging out and spending time with my family and friends because they alone fill me up.
Mm,
Going out in nature, taking my dog out on a hike. Oh my goodness, if I can find a beautiful mountain view, I'm sold.
mm, yeah.
And really tuning into, I would say, the spiritual self of myself through yoga and meditation and making sure my body is healthy and my mind is healthy and therapy. Those are how I keep my cup full and running over.
Great answer. I preach nature and yoga and all those things as well. So I think it's super
Yay!
important. Super important. And Sue says grief affects everyone at some point, so we all need to feel we can open up. You are not alone. Shanice, I saw on your shirt, and I'm gonna take this off. Normalize grief. Did you make that shirt? Are we selling that shirt? How do we get one of those?
Absolutely. So these shirts, we have shirts, sweatshirts, literally mugs, anything that you can think of as a perfect gift or knickknack or something cozy for yourself on our website at grievingit.com.
Perfect, right here. www.grievingit.com.
I
Okay.
always spell it out and I say that grieving it, I before the E.
I before
It
E.
always
There you
catches me.
go. It almost got me. Okay, so Shanice, what is the best way for people to connect with you?
Okay, so I can be found on literally anywhere and everywhere. So we can be found on Facebook and Instagram at Grieving It. Everybody,
Okay.
please feel free to connect with our page, Grief on the Playground, the book on Instagram, where you can join us and stay connected with everything Grief on the Playground and all the book content. And the best place that you guys can support and connect with us is to join our mailing listing on our website at grievingit.com.
Okay, so I have a couple email addresses here. Can I share these? I'm
Absolutely.
sure I could
It's on
share
my
this one.
website.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. I see grievingit@gmail.com and then Shanice@grievingit.com.
So both of
Um,
them will get you guys in contact with me. So they both work.
Beautiful. Okay, Shanice. So I prepared you before we even started this episode of The Power of
You
Love. I
did.
prepared you and told you you were going to get the final message of the day to leave our members, our community, with anything you want to leave them with. So let me step aside and give you the floor. So it's all yours, Shanice. Go ahead.
No problem. As I start, I would like to say thank you, TJ, for allowing space for me, for grieving it, as well as grief on the playground on this amazing platform. I'm really thankful, and I'm thanking you for everyone, for all that you do, for all that Taj does each and every single day to normalize grief, as well as what you guys do through the DD Jackson Foundation. In
Mm.
addition, I'm thankful to everybody near and far that has joined us for our conversation today, that has commented, that has kept us going. I really hope that you guys see value in talking to children about grief. I really encourage you guys to order your copy of Grief on the Playground to nurture those upcoming conversations because like we said earlier, those are hard, and talking about grief is hard because we don't want to disturb the peace when it comes to our feelings, or we don't want to unlock that box. But once you unlock the box, on the other side of it is comfort, and on the other side of it are a community of people that can support you. um, we can all agree that grief sucks, but I truly believe, TJ, that grief sucks a lot less whenever you have people that are surrounding you, that support you, and that are in your corner. And before I close out, this is my last. You ready? I
Yeah.
would like to leave you all with a note that someone shared to me a few years ago. And they said, and this is something that I literally repeat almost every day, that people say that with time things get easier. And the reality is it doesn't. But we do every day get a little bit stronger to deal with it. And that's grief.
Yeah. Well said, Shanice.
Thank you.
Well said. Well, I always go through the comments. It was a little bit more challenging without Taj here, being able to go through all the comments. So if I missed some of your comments, everyone, I apologize. But I will say there's been a lot of comments about your aura, your vibe, your tempo. It's
Oh,
beautiful and it's very soothing and relaxing and very empowering. So you don't change one thing about you, and I want to thank you on behalf of Taj and the entire foundation for joining us and for doing your part in helping the world get a little bit more aware of grief and how to deal with it, because it is a very challenging time in people's lives, and I want to thank you for doing your part.
thank
um
you.
all right, you guys, so that is today's show. Again, go ahead, check out Grief on the Playground, written by the one and only Shanice McLeish. It's on all the platforms: Amazon, Barnes& and Noble, Target, and directly at www.grievingit.com. You can always find her on all the social media, from Facebook to Instagram to even emailing her at grievingit@gmail.com. We are signing off today, you guys, and we will see you guys next Wednesday at 1 o'clock.